check our local history with History Out There, and of course the one and only Harold Peacock, who's on the line. Good morning, mate.
Yes, good morning, Damo. Yes, some good history this week. Now, have you been telling anyone about it? Because I don't want to ruin any surprise. It's a good one.
Oh, I know. Look, it's the story of Dalby's nude bushranger, which I was only commenting on earlier in the program. Would have been a bit chilly in winter.
Yes, and it was too. So yeah, he had to keep moving because it was in 1864. The celebrated Maitland racehorse Euclid was bought by a young man called Mr. Richard Heaslop, and he intended running it in the Dalby and Toowoomba races. Now, the 21-year-old Heaslop had arrived in the colony about 18 months earlier. He'd been sent on a colonial experience by his family in a bid to calm his wild disposition, which the well-to-do families did back then. His father was a captain in the British Army, and in England, Heaslop himself enlisted in a dragoon regiment. Once in Queensland, the Ipswich Volunteers welcomed him as drill master. Now, Mr. Charles Chubb, he was the Ipswich alderman and mayor. He got Heaslop an appointment as storekeeper at Mr. Stephen Spencer's station at Mount Abundance near Roma. Now, after 12 months on the station, Heaslop made an appearance in Dalby, but it was to pass several bad checks purporting to have been signed by Mr. Spencer. Yeah, look, he then returned to Ipswich and went on a forgery spree. He passed a large value of cheques on Mr. David Raynor, he's a selector at the Morribee near Roma, then on Mr. Wallace of the Condamine Township, on Mr. Suter of the Kogan Inn at Dalby, and no cheques were ever less than £10, which is over $13,000 today. Now, then he went, still in Dalby with Mr. Sydney, he cashed cheques for £30. Again, that's close to $40,000. He went to Yandilla and put away a considerable sum by purchasing another racehorse from the overseer, John Pearce. Back at Cecil Plains, he paid more cheques, and at Dardine with Mr. J.P. Wilkie, who was the pastoralist and chief and the justice of the peace who once employed Captain Thunderbolt, he put away another £45 by buying a fine horse from him. That's like over $50,000.
Wow.
All the checks were reported to be made by Mr. Stephen Spencer, and that was probably Heslop's biggest mistake. You see, the Spencer family was considered almost Australian royalty. Mr. Spencer, you see, had been one of the first settlers on Mount Abundance. He was the son of the Reverend Charles Spencer, the rector of St Paul's, Roma. He was a grandson of Sir James Dowling, the second Chief Justice of New South Wales, and grandnephew of Gregory Blaxland, who famously was the co-leader of the first European crossing of the Blue Mountains. Now, it was ascertained that Heaslop had gone to Sydney, and so the police authorities were duly informed, and a Sydney detective arrested him in a house of disrepute on Castlereagh Street, and safely escorted him back to Dalby and lodged him in the lockup. But the thing is, Damo, the cells at Dalby were wretched black holes, and Heaslop was confined with another man in a cell just 6 feet by 4. Now, the ceiling was about 7 feet from the floor and was composed of really rotten pine boards. And so at 3 o'clock on a Sunday morning, the two prisoners stripped themselves stark naked. Heaslop, we don't know why, but Heaslop slipped his handcuffs and got off the chain. They then helped one another through the ceiling, tearing away the wood with their hands. Heaslop jumped down into the bedroom of the lockup keeper. Now, in vain, Constable MacDonald and his wife, who acted with indescribable pluck, tried to stop the men escaping, but their naked bodies proved no grip. Well, it provided no grip, and despite both striving to keep hold on as best they could, none more so than Mrs. MacDonald, the prisoners got away. Now, MacDonald was made the scapegoat and controversially suspended for 6 months. Now, Heaslop, meanwhile, skirted around Dalby and through the rain, thunder and darkness, retraced his steps to the hotel of Alderman Alfred Gaylor. There he crawled into the hayloft, naked, cold and hungry, while the police magistrate and the constables were searching Greenbank and the bush for miles around. Heaslop remained naked in the middle of that hay that Saturday night, all day Sunday, until on Monday morning around 3 o'clock, he emerged still in the nude He broke open the saddle room, dressed and equipped himself with a gentleman's swag, or from the gentleman's swag, and he took the best horse and revolver and rode away. Now, after months on the run, Dalby's nude bushranger was finally recaptured. Now, he was convicted of forgery and sentenced to 2 years and 9 months hard labour in the convict road gangs. But Damo, I've scoured the records, and I don't think Heaslop ever went naked again.
Well, probably learned his lesson.
Well, Mrs. McDonald, she, don't know what lesson she taught, but she was trying to stop him escaping. So he didn't want to go through that again, I'd imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Mate, another great story. Now, of course, you'll be posting this online.
Yes, that's right. You can go online to the website historyouthere.com. I've got photos of most of these people that participated in the great nude bushranger episode in Dalby. So you can see the photos of the people. Historyouthere.com.
Fantastic, mate. Always a great story, and we'll look forward to doing it all again next week.
Oh, look, I'm looking forward to it. And it's a good story too. Just wait for that one.
Oh, I always look forward to it. Don't you worry. You have a great week, mate.
You too.
There we go. Harold Peacock joining us there with the story of the Dalby nude bushranger. You can check that out and many other stories as well by jumping onto his website, historyouthere.com, and checking it all out there. We're going to take a break and back with our birthdays.